Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here, and I'm excited to do today's show. Happy Monday, everyone. It's November 15th, 2021. Who would have thought we'd have gotten this far already? Let's get to it.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the number one show in hospitality. All right. Hey, everybody. The one and only, the infamous Glenn Hausman is here with you today. And again, it is Monday. Anthony is not here today. He is on assignment. Feel badly for him. He had to go to Las Vegas. How sad is that, having to go to that city, right? I hope he finds something to do when he's not in meetings and stuff like that. I don't know what he's going to do, but whatever. He's going to be gone today and tomorrow, and he'll be back on Thursday. Well, tomorrow we're actually not doing a show because I'm here. I'm here right now. I'm at the Gaylord Texan, and I'm very excited to be here hosting again for Red Roof. So as soon as this show's over, I'm going up on stage to do an interview with their president, and tomorrow I'm going to be doing a Q&A and then hitting the airplane, so I will not have an opportunity to do a broadcast tomorrow, but we'll be doing regular shows on Wednesday, Thursday, and of course, Friday night. We got Friday Night Audit coming right at you. Another great show, another great guest. Although, don't ask me who that guest is. I don't know. I'm only in charge of these things. Why would I know? I don't know. Anyway, as you can see, I'm feeling particularly fun today. And one of the things that I would like to encourage you to do is if you're looking to invest in owning a hotel, well, go ahead and give the good folks over at Radisson an opportunity. They are doing great things over there with their portfolio of brands, and their chief development, Phil Hugh, I know would like to speak with you. So please give him a chance. Go to Radisson.com. There we go. Radisson.com/en.us/development, and go and check out what they have. And of course, tell them Glenn sent you. And thank you so much for your support over here. All right. Today's exciting because I've got with us Julian Buffett. He's a partner with Newcastle Hotels and Resorts. And we haven't spoken to Julian since I think the summer of 2019 when he first got started back in the business. Julian, welcome to the show. Am I right about that, sir?
I think you're spot on, Glenn. Yeah, no, it was, pre-pandemic last time we got together.
Yeah.
You, Anthony, I think it was Moxie Times Square. So, boys, lots changed since then.
It sure was. Colleen, yes, we are live right now. Sorry we're an hour late today. Julian had a scheduling issue, and I'm here doing this Red Roof thing. So it is what it is. At least we're out here providing you with great content. But Julian, man, when we talked in the summer of 2019, maybe late summer, whatever it is, none of us knew what was going to be happening. At that time, you were a new leader. And then 6-8 months into what you're doing, you had to face the biggest crisis of your professional career. That must have been pretty frightening, scary times before you understand what the new rules of the game were going to be for you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I joined Newcastle about 5 years ago as my dad, the founder of Newcastle, David Buffett, was entering retirement, and had a few good years there, leading into 18, 19, and then obviously the pandemic hit. So tremendous amount of change, obviously a lot of difficult decisions that had to be made, be it property level, corporate level. But 18 months in, we are, more optimistic and excited about being in this industry than really ever before. Doesn't mean the challenges aren't even greater. The stakes are even higher. I mean, whether it's urban group business, which is not clawed its way back, or just the labor shortages and challenges we're facing, in any market, urban or leisure. There's a lot of challenges, but our industry is evolving, it's changing, and there's a heck of a lot of opportunity out there that keeps us motivated and excited, and hopefully continuing to grow here the next 40 years.
So let's get into a little bit of that. And Julian, let me just set the stage by saying one of the things that I and Anthony often speak about is that we're not living in a new normal. There's no such thing as a new normal. Today is different than yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be different today, because we're all, no matter what it is, there's an arc and a life to all certain things. Things come and go, trends appear, trends disappear, all of that kind of stuff. I made a joke this morning about this sort of thing. I'm like, one day there was the world's leading VCR salesman, right? But if that person didn't change and get into DVD sales or, whatever it was, and then into digital, then they were going to be facing extinction, right? So you have to think about trends. You have trends. You have to think about, where we are in the pantheon of change over here. So when did you start to recognize that you were going to have to start to reinvent how you did things to better meet what the trends already were in the marketplace that suddenly accelerated beyond what any of us believed?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, we were fortunate that, 4 or 5 years ago, we really started to invest a lot in our people from a corporate standpoint. So a lot of what we were doing at the property level was in partnership with the brands in many respects, or in partnership with other third parties. And we didn't have as built up of a corporate team as we would have liked. And so we're relying on a lot of third parties, whether it was, revenue management or direct sales, or even accounting to some extent. So now, and this trend really started 3-4 years ago, we've really centralized a lot of those functions and built out those personnel and those services so that each asset, doesn't have to be overburdened with the property team focusing on, be it HR recruiting, be it, accounting, be it revenue management. A lot of that process gets driven from the corporate office and frees up, the time for people on property to be focused on what's truly important, which, in this time frame is so much about guest satisfaction, right? A lot of our hotels are charging more than they've ever charged before, and we're doing less service than we've ever done before. And so there's a guest satisfaction issue that I think could create long-term challenges if it's not addressed, in short order. So we're doing what we can to make sure that our property teams can focus on the guests, that can focus on their relationships in their markets, and have the support they need from a corporate standpoint.
That's a fascinating point that you make there. And funny, Julian, I was actually talking to some people about that very issue today, because some hotels, and again, we're talking, the urban core hotels, they're suffering out there, but a lot of your other properties, I would say your Jekyll Island properties have probably been rocking it out since they're in more of a leisure destination, and people are thinking leisure a lot more these days. But when you're raising prices, and thank goodness we're able to do that and earn that money that you all need to stay in business, but you're stripping away things, and all of a sudden, that value equation that used to be so embedded in your product offerings has changed. So how are you trying to get people to see the value in what you've done, even though there could be a perception that they're not getting what they used to, but paying more for it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Jekyll's a great example, right?
Yeah.
A market that's probably running 20% premium, from a rate standpoint compared to 2019. Where guests are in some respects, for a period of time, we're getting less. Maybe there was no turnover service, maybe there was no room service. Those type of things can be frustrating when you're paying more than you used to pay. And so it's really about starting at the front desk experience, right? The check-in experience, and carrying it through the whole experience from a concierge perspective, and having a lot of touch points. There's no question that there's been some shortfall, and we're not still providing the exact level of service that we were in 19, particularly from a housekeeping perspective.
Right.
But there's so many other touch points, throughout a person's stay where you can make a massive difference. And even if there is that slight shortfall and disappointment, from a housekeeping standpoint or turnover standpoint or room service standpoint, there's so many other areas where we can make up for it and really make sure that a guest and a family stay is exceptional and something really memorable. So we're making sure that our teams are staffed up in the areas they need to be staffed up. Front desk is huge, right? Right now, we're running into challenges in some markets where just, the lineup of guests checking in and the turnover of rooms is not, supportive of getting people into their rooms on time, right? Some people are asking for late checkouts, and then you run into this whole challenge of being able to turn over a room, in time for someone's arrival at 2 or 3 p.m. Sometimes, it's impossible to turn the rooms around that quickly, and you're running into, really issues of only getting people in their rooms at 5 or 6 p.m. So what are you doing, between that time where the person arrives and when they're actually getting into their guest room? How can you make that, period of time, which is stressful, I'm sure, the tensions are high. How can you make that really, really special and unique? And we always have the bartenders coming out with complimentary drinks and making sure people are comfortable, get them set up, outside of the pool, and make that experience, turn that around somehow.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Julian, because for me, I find the most frustrating, worst part of any possible hotel experience is showing up and then saying check-in's not until 4 and you won't even get in until 5 or 6, too bad.
No, I wish there was a solution for you, but it's just, you run into that challenge more and more. Yeah. And you just gotta manage that. And it's all about the team on the ground and those.
But what you're talking about, Julian, is it is a solution. You may fall short here, but by overcompensating the other direction, by making people feel special, by giving them great service and interactions with your team that's on site, I'd like to believe that goes a real far way to not just ameliorate the situation that happened, but actually put you in a positive position of goodwill for the remainder of that stay.
Well said. Yeah, well said, Glenn.
Yeah. So that's fascinating to me that, people would want to, stay later and they want to get in earlier. So does that change? Is there any way to change the way you think about things operationally? Because no matter what, you're still pinched with not having enough people necessarily to flip those rooms. So obviously that's not an answer right there. Otherwise you would have done that already.
Yeah.
So operationally speaking, what can you do to make sure that in other parts of the people's stay, they don't have any sort of encumbrances to their experience?
Yeah, so much of it is about, managing expectations and communication and over communication, quite frankly. So front desk training is absolutely crucial in making sure that, some guests arrive to our hotel that ask for an extended stay, that given their status, they're able to ask for that. And we, need to accommodate to the extent possible. Now, there's that caveat, right? To the extent possible, you can't always accommodate a 4 p.m. checkout if you have a full house the next day, and it's going to result in just a total bottleneck at the front desk. And so having a real understanding and having the front desk really well trained to manage those issues, because a guest that is used to checking out at 4 p.m. that doesn't get to, it's disappointing. Right. You got to manage that experience as well, and also manage it on the other end. So making sure the front desk has the training, but also the information, available and necessary to be able to manage those type of conversations with confidence, but with compassion is so crucial.
Oh goodness, Julian, you guys are getting it coming and going. That's a really tough position for you to be in. Plus, another thing that I've been experiencing and noticing is everybody's tension seems to be running much higher. There seems to be an undercurrent of anger that's really unfortunate that's happening. So people are already coming into your buildings, your stores there, probably a lot more than they normally would have been back in 2019. So that's really tough to train for that sort of stuff, I would think, with staff. Have you been able to adapt and help make your staff feel comfortable even when they're faced with people who are being obscene and ridiculous?
Yeah, I think, getting out there to the properties and showing, the teams that they have the support, above property, even if it means, at one point in time considering, additional security or what have you. You're absolutely right. Tensions were high. People were put in situations that were, that was not part of their job description. Very, very unfair. And have done a, phenomenal job, through that. But recognizing that, as a company, we need to offer that support and make change where we need to make change, if necessary, or layer in additional resources is crucial. And showing the teams that they have that has been a big part of our strategy, because it's been tough all around.
Yeah, I feel really, I have a lot of compassion for folks that are on the front lines of this sort of thing. It was always hard enough. And front desk people and other folks within the hotel have always been subject to a lot of negativity in their positions, but it's gotten a lot higher. I look at often some of the Facebook news groups of hotel workers and stuff like that. And that seems to be a big issue for them. They want to be there. Their heart's in the right place, but they're feeling as if that the people that come in have these insane expectations. Everybody's forgotten that we're still in the middle of a massive global crisis, and people's patience for disruption is just simply not there anymore. And I got to be honest with you, Julian, I'm starting to get that way a little bit too, because I'm paying full price and I still have expectations and I know better, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. You know, whether it's the airlines, right? It seems like it's more expensive to fly anywhere. I mean, you know, we're seeing inflation month after month, you know, hitting levels that, you know, the Fed wouldn't have expected. And so that is very, very real. And it's not going away, you know, in the short term. So that's going to last. And as an industry, you know, both for our guests, but also our employees, we got to make sure that we're changing that paradigm a little bit, because as an industry, we've definitely had a little bit of a black mark here. And we've had a lot of people exit and reconsider, you know, their career in hospitality and look to other alternatives. So we need to get back to being, you know, an industry where it's really a great place to start a career, to build a career, and to ride out your career, and have a fulfilling, you know, experience, both professionally, but also in terms of, you know, your family life and what you're able to build for yourself. So that's a huge focus for us as well. How do we get back out there and make sure that the Newcastle pitch, the hospitality industry pitch, is as strong as it's ever been, because it's more competitive, attracting talent than it's ever been.
Right. And again, this is an issue we've talked about here. And just so our viewers and you know where we come from, you know, you're competing against all of these other places, the Amazons and all of those kinds of things. People, I made a joke on our Friday night audit show, you're never going to get any workers back to the hotels because everyone's got their own Etsy store at this point. But that's really very true in a way, right? People feel emboldened. They feel empowered. They've got this attitude. If it's not now, when is it going to be that I'm going to pursue my dreams? So to meet up with their dreams, how are you at Newcastle getting people to understand that they can fulfill their dreams with a rewarding career in hospitality, even if they start in housekeeping, even if they start at that front desk?
We're fortunate that a lot of that kind of story is embedded, you know, into the company and who we are. I mean, we had our VP of HR retire last year after 40 years with the company. Our CFO has been with the company for 30 years. We've got average tenure at our GM level of over 15 years. And so the story that we sell of starting, you know, at A and ending up at Z is real, and it's true, and it's been, you know, achieved by a lot of folks that continue to be with the company to this day. So, but you know, that story needs to be told and reiterated at the property level, and the opportunities, you know, to climb the ladder need to be clear and evident and achievable for people that rise to the challenge. So we're lucky in that we've got that kind of embedded in our culture and our history, but we need to continue to do that on a go forward basis.
You know, you guys, I'd like to talk a little bit about the differences between what you're seeing here in the United States versus what you're seeing in Canada. And Newcastle has a number of properties up in New Brunswick, I think it is, right?
True. Yes.
Yeah. And Halifax and Nova Scotia, for example. So where are we at in Canada versus here? Now, I was in Alberta, Canada in September, and they had just come down with a new mask mandate and a new have to show vaccine cards to go into everything, kind of like New York City with showing vaccine mandates. Now, the interesting thing was in Alberta, they're more of that rural, we don't have to do this sort of thing type of culture over there. And it was a little bit of a challenge to get everyone on board. What's the other side of the country where you're at? I think they're in a much better case because Alberta had 3 times the amount of cases in September than other parts of Canada. So what's the difference between what's going on in Canada and how you're operating your hotels versus how you have to consider things down here in the United States?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, Canada has been definitely more restrictive, definitely more conservative in terms of how they've, you know, approached the pandemic in terms of case counts and lockdowns and restricting travel. So a lot of the provinces were locked down. You couldn't travel between provinces, so you couldn't go from, you know, Nova Scotia to New Brunswick over to, you know, Ontario. And in some cases, you know, spikes in certain, you know, regions, municipalities, cities to local kind of lockdown. So that has been kind of a storyline that's kind of gone on for 18 months now. On the positive side, obviously the vaccination rate is very, very high. in Canada, and we're starting to see real green shoots. But the summers in the U.S. where we just saw such strong ADR recovery. As a portfolio, our ADR in the U.S. is basically on pace to get back to 19 levels at the end of this year, heavily driven by the leisure-oriented assets, but on a whole as the portfolio. In Canada, our portfolio is not even close to getting back to the ADR levels. But so goes the U.S. Typically, so goes Canada, and we think 2022 is going to be that year where Canada really starts to see that rebound in travel. One outlier has been the Algonquin Resort, which, as you mentioned, is in St. Andrews by the Sea. New Brunswick, even though the borders to the U.S. were closed and we get a lot of visitation from the U.S. and borders to Nova Scotia and Ontario were closed, that hotel performed at a level that exceeded all our expectations. And the golf course was running, revenue probably twice that of the prior year. We had spent a good amount of money repositioning it a few years before, and it just got nominated in the top, I believe it was the top 100 in Canada of top courses. So we were fortunate that we were delivering a great course just at a point in time where everyone wanted to be out and about and playing on the golf course. But that was very, very exciting to see. And the demand for that property really, really surged. So that was exciting. But on the flip side, urban, corporate oriented hotels are still struggling. And 2022 it'll be interesting to see if with the rollback kind of in restrictions, with the high vaccination rate, are we able to get back to business and see that really strong ADR recovery that we've already started to see in the U.S.
Do you have any anticipation that you think more Americans are going to go to some of those resorts up in Canada as things get a little bit looser? Now, when I went to Canada again, I felt the hassle factor was a big problem for me. I had to get the PCR test, then I had to worry about getting a test to come back. And at some point, it's easier just to jump on a domestic flight or drive somewhere. So are you having hopes that some of those more restrictions will become a little bit looser now that Canadians are allowed to freely go back and forth?
Well, I hope so, Glenn. I was in the same boat as you. I went to Canada for the first time last week in 2.5 years, right? And it was on the way there, couldn't get directly to Halifax, had to go through Montreal, Toronto on the way back, PCR on the way back, there for 48 hours. And the amount of time just logistically I spent getting organized, ready to travel was crazy. So that needs to be solved before I have any level of confidence that there's going to be a real rebound in U.S. travel. Certainly, the drive to for a place like St. Andrews from the U.S. is probably promising and going to be a good good source of new demand there. But for a place like Halifax, we're certainly relying on inbound, not just domestic but international and U.S. travel. So that really needs to be logistically a lot smoother than it is right now before I have any faith that it's gonna recover.
Yeah, I got a lot of sympathy for you and the team, because it's almost like you have to run two different hotel companies, right? Because the rules up north are so different than what's happening down here, and even down here, it's so many different jurisdictions doing different things. How do you keep track of it all? And how do you keep yourself from not going freaking crazy, man?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, in terms of, labor law, in terms of certainly the business is very, very different, but there are a lot of things that we learn from our team in the US, from our Canadian team, and that's cool. The other way around. So we really do work as a collective, unit, as a collective company, and there's so much to learn across the border, but a lot of things are very, very different. I mean, in the U.S., we were getting PPP loans, right? That was a process that we went through across our entire portfolio and at the corporate level. In Canada, the subsidies were very, very different. And so from an accounting and financial perspective, very different processes, but I'd say it's always been a very significant net value add for our company, having the exposure to Canada and in the US and being able to learn on both sides and really bring best practices, in one direction or the other.
Now, I'm very familiar with all the programs down here in the United States, but as far as what the government did for hotels in the United States versus what they did in Canada, which one was more favorable to you as the management company?
Yeah, great question. Well, the support in Canada was essentially, a credit on payroll. So you spent a certain amount in payroll. and you were given a credit depending on, calculation, of how far your revenues were down. And so that's continued to this day. Now it is set to expire in the not too distant future here, but that support has lasted longer than, what we got on the US side. That being said, there were several rounds of PPP that we were successful in applying for, and in most cases getting forgiven, which were incredibly valuable and beneficial for maintaining our operations on a go-forward basis, particularly for assets in urban group-oriented markets that really wouldn't have survived otherwise. So, it's definitely been helpful on both sides of the border, but a very different approach.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So when you're looking at the urban cores here in the United States, I'm starting to wonder what's going on here, if there's going to be a comeback anytime soon, because now again, the U.S. has opened up to international travelers as of the 8th. And if you're looking at the TSA numbers, just yesterday, Julian, 2.15 million people went through TSA. And in 2009, that was 2.3 million. So we're really at like a 10% difference at this point, which is not that much. But urban hotels are certainly not running at 10% less occupancy. What do you think is really happening here? Are people just that much more on the leisure side and going to different destinations? Or is there something else afoot that I can't get my finger on?
Yeah, no, I think that's part of it, right? I mean, if I see, a report, we get weekly reports from each of our properties coming out of New Orleans or Lexington. This weekend business is sold out right now and running rates, higher than what we saw in 19.
Yeah.
Midweek is still lackluster and not quite there. So, I think, our thesis really on a go forward basis is that, leisure demand is going to make up a larger share of total demand, whether it's an additional 5% or 10%, to be determined. But there is a certain segment of corporate business that just isn't going to come back because a lot of these companies have found a different way of operating and doing business and running their companies. And many of those are, in a more remote fashion or hybrid fashion, which doesn't mean you need to be as client facing as you were in the past. That being said, I think that opens up a whole nother area.
That's going to be my next question, right? Because as one business, not business unit, but business feeder is kind of changing, but all of that business is theoretically moving to another column that might, I think, in the next 5 years or so is going to be bigger and better opportunities, because what we're talking about is the digital nomad, that remote traveler, a person who instead of coming into a particular town for 2 or 3 days might come in for 2 or 3 days and then stay for another 5 days or whatever it might be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And companies that are worried about, a hybrid model or a fully remote model resulting in a loss of culture, right? They're going to have to make up for that, lack of kind of collaborative, time with some sort of destination type, events. Right. And hotels are the perfect venues, right? To accommodate that type of, collaborative, work. So I definitely see a lot of opportunity, similar to you, both on an individual basis, but also for corporations to continue to see hospitality as just a great way for them to kind of maintain the culture if they're fearful that they're going to lose that.
Right, because like what I'm thinking is using your like Cambria, Charleston, Riverview property, for example, right? Charleston is a big business city, but it's also one that I think plays well towards that hybrid type of lifestyle, working wherever you want to do. So at that Cambria, you probably have a good opportunity to not just get those types of people, but also all of those companies that are local that have gone to a more remote thing. They've given up office space and now can come in, hang out with you guys for an afternoon in like a small conference room that you might have there and create that cultural aspect. Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, that's a great example. This beautiful property. And it's got a great activated lobby with a lobby bar. It's a food and beverage component. So what you just laid out is absolutely what we're trying to tap into, continue to grow, the accounts that we've got a great relationship with already. But then the transient pickup there, in a short window of time has been just so significant. And we're seeing that across the board, just that the booking window has shortened so dramatically. And, planning a month ahead, 6 months ahead, a year ahead is almost impossible because things are changing so rapidly right now. But it's a great, it's a great strategy.
Yeah, dude, I'm laughing because this is exactly the other stuff I was hearing this morning. I was talking to some folks that are in the revenue generation category for Red Roof, since I'm here speaking at their event, and they were talking about that shrinking booking window, and it's been shrinking for the last 15, 20 years to now they were saying it's kind of like they pull off the interstate and then they make the decision of where they're going to stay in 5 minutes from now. Right. Yeah. So that completely changes everything that you're doing in terms of attracting business. So that's a big challenge for you guys going forward, isn't it?
No, it is. No, I mean, we focus a lot or have focused a lot on, staffing in accordance with our demand, right? When you don't have a really clear pulse on demand and it can change within 24 hours, it's more challenging to flex labor in certain areas. So that's a challenge, no doubt. And just budgeting becomes a lot more challenging.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So how are you wrapping all of your experience up now and knowing where we have been, where we are now, and where we're headed to, when you're looking to speak to owners and developers about trusting their hotel with your management company, Newcastle?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And we are a management company, but we're an investment company first. So we own, about a third of our proproperties. And
you have about 15 properties right now?
Currently 15 properties, exactly right. And we have a major investment in another, call it 2/3. And there's really a small sliver that we just manage on behalf of third parties. And typically those are assets we built or acquired and then sold and retained management. But, we are focused on a lot of the projects that we had in our pipeline that were certainly put on the back burner for a period of time. Certainly the new development stuff and the historic redevelopments, the adaptive reuse, for 12 months now that, those have been impossible to fund from a debt and equity standpoint.
Right.
Well, the past 6 months in particular has changed a lot in my perspective. I mean, the appetite from the investment community in hospitality has absolutely surged, and you're seeing assets trade at levels that are exceeding pre-pandemic peaks,
Crazy.
Right? I mean, whether it's an asset, in Charleston, California, I mean, you name it, the per keys and the cap rates are incredible. And part of that is just, scarcity, certainly of opportunity, but also hospitality being a really strong asset class in an inflationary environment, right? We reset our rates every single day, multiple times a day, and not every asset class has that benefit. So if you're, a PE firm and you're looking at, a variety of different asset classes, industrial, residential, office, hospitality, all of a sudden seems really, really attractive because it's on the rebound. It's great in an inflationary environment, and it's typically traded at much higher cap rates than, those comparable asset classes. So we're seeing more interest in our space than ever before. And we're really trying to capitalize on that and find opportunities, that our, platform can really differentiate, be it the market, be it the type of asset, be it the complex redevelopment, and really bring all our resources to bear to execute. So now is an exciting time because the debt markets seem to have opened up again. There's a lot more interest, and equity is absolutely there and free flowing. So it's all about finding the opportunities, and we're excited about our pipeline.
How do you go through the process of finding opportunities? I don't want to get all, into the nitty gritty and expose your secrets, but it always fascinates me that everyone's always looking for off-market deals, this, that, and the other thing. And everyone's got a network of people that talk to people to talk to people. How's it work for you guys?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the approach we had pre-pandemic seems to be the approach that we've carried through the pandemic, and the approach that seems like a lot of other people are starting to take in that, and even the brokerage community, right? You used to have a lot more deals that were broadly marketed. Now you're getting deals where all of a sudden there's a transaction, there was a broker involved, but you never even heard about it. Well, how did that happen? Well, because the broker's mandate was really to go out to 5 groups or 10 groups, right? Go to the groups will perform. And so that's how a lot of deals are getting done in this market. And, before the pandemic, one of the last deals we did was the Holiday Inn in Saratoga Springs. And it was not a heavily marketed deal. It was really brought to, a handful of groups kind of that had expertise in the Northeast. And we were one of them. And we all of us, very quickly got excited about the market, about the opportunity, the operational upside, and we're able to move very, very quickly through due diligence, but built a really good rapport and relationship with the seller. A lot of owners don't necessarily want to go through the turmoil of a marketed deal where, there's dozens of tours and it's, creating some turmoil and some challenges operationally. So, for us, it was a lot about building that relationship, making sure there was a comfort level with us and our experience and our capabilities to effectuate a smooth transition and certainly to close. And so that's kind of how we've done business since is working locally at the grassroots levels, be it with, relationships on the advisory side or the brokerage side, or directly through some owners that we know well to try and manufacture some transactions. Because the truth is underwriting marketed deals right now is challenging. It's hard to be competitive. We're getting outbid left and right. So certainly finding those deals where our platform can really differentiate, but where we can build a rapport with the players, on the ground is key.
It's so crazy that there's so many challenges out there, but I think even more opportunities for guys like you that know where to look for them,
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, by the way, that asset, the Holiday Inn, is a great looking building up in Saratoga Springs. How old is that structure? Do you know?
Oh God, yeah, that was built, I believe, in the 70s. It was the first.
Doesn't look like it, man, at all.
Yeah, I'll double check and get back to you on the exact date. But it was actually the first convention hotel that was built in Saratoga Springs, and it was actually built. Money was raised through the local citizens. A group, came to be formed that wanted a destination kind of convention hotel in Saratoga, and they made it happen. So our transaction was actually the first time that hotel traded hands since it was built. So it was very exciting. The history there is fantastic, and I'm excited to say that this summer was actually the strongest summer Saratoga's ever seen, and the property's ever performed.
I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Saratoga's been insane. First of all, you got the racing up there in the late summer, and then you've got SPAC up there. Plus, it's one of the most beautiful places ever.
It is.
And you got that great spring water, so everyone's rushing to the city just for that. Right?
Right, exactly.
What are you looking forward to most in 2022, Julian?
Oh man, more travel. I'm very excited to travel a lot more, to get to see more properties, more of our team members, to have more face-to-face, really. I mean, obviously this is great, Glenn, seeing your face virtually. It's been too long. Seeing you in person at the lodging conference was great as well. More of that. I'm excited for. That'll be it.
You doing any fun trips before Alice in January?
Let's see. We'll be down in Sanibel Island for Thanksgiving. Family down there, and so we're looking forward to that. Get some sunshine, some shelling on the beach, and some R&R.
That's beautiful. Yeah, Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday that we celebrate in the United States. I freaking love it. I'm going to be cooking all day, having people come over, and it'll be really nice to be together with friends and family. Julian, any final thoughts before we wrap this up for today?
No, not today, Glenn. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Look forward to our next discussion, and phenomenal work. Always love listening to No Vacancy. So keep up the great work.
I appreciate it. Do me a favor, stick around backstage. Let me wrap up the show, and then I'll wrap up with you personally. All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. And thank you guys for sticking around here today. I appreciate it. And remember, we will not be on air tomorrow. So that's a perfect opportunity to reach out to our friends over at Radisson and talk to them about buying a hotel franchise, isn't it? Also, to get our audio versions of our shows, go to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play. You know the routine by now. I'm saying it here every single day. There's a reason why we are the top 1/1% of all audio podcasts on planet Earth. That's because folks like you are downloading and listening to us every day. Thank you so much for the support. If you want to talk to Anthony, he's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. Remember, everybody, you've got one life, so blaze on. And as Anthony would say, take care of yourself or be kind to yourself. That's what he says. You'd think I'd listen to that. All right. See you all on Wednesday.